Good evening and welcome to another McMuscles Midnight Massacre Chapter 2. Yes, this is a red panda. I don't have a tiger one.
I just got this tiger print. I think this is legit.
Was it just for the review?
No, I had bought it right before.
You do like it, so.
I do. I haven't worn it yet in the summer, but anyways.
Yeah, because...
We're trying, though.
We're trying because, as you can see in the title, tigers are not afraid. Do you want to take us through what this kind of is, this one?
Well, it was a Shudder, announcement that we were like, oh, there's a new movie, and then we decided to look at it, and got all these, good reviews. You know what Stephen King's like, I love it, it scared my butthole, whatever, you know?
Yeah, he routinely says that.
Yeah.
My butthole, that's from Maine.
Yeah, I got scared.
A bunch of other guys, like Guillermo del Toro, and a couple
a lot
other...
of known people were like, this is really good. So we're like, who are we to maybe, poo-poo it if they're saying it's good. So and what you see even from the trailer is, it's not really, it's like a fantasy, what do they call it? Like a fantasy...
They say fairy tale, like horror crime fairy tale.
Yeah, horror not so much, but the tiger iconography you see, there's a lot of tiger graffiti that moves, or a little tiger bear that moves.
There's a slight whimsical sense to it.
That's the fairy tale aspect, I think. But anyways, It's about these kids. Estrella is her name?
Estrella's the girl. I guess she was the main girl, yeah.
They live in Mexico, and there's a lot of, crime and violence that's happening in the area that they're living, and basically, which results in a bunch of, orphaned kids, and they sort of are fending for themselves, and they get into this, situation with, the crime lords that, they have his
There's, this gang around.
Yeah, they're just trying to survive, but they're also, trying to... I don't know.
Well, Estrella's mom goes missing.
Yeah, so we start off with her. She sees a murder. She's in school. There's a shooting. And then this blood trail sort of starts following her. And that's a theme that's going to continue throughout it. And, the teacher gives her this 3 pieces of chalk while they're on the floor while there's a shooting in the first scene. And she's like, these are 3 wishes. So, giving her this, power, I guess, to...
That's something we'll talk about in the good and bad stuff. But, that was, a weird... I guess that's another fairy tale aspect of it.
So. But then she goes home, and then her mom just never shows up. Yeah. So we're assuming that something happened to the mom. And then she meets this other group of boys.
Yeah, she just... one of these other boys just comes to rob the house because he's looking for anything.
Yeah.
So she follows them, and then she kind of joins up with their gang, I guess.
Yeah, they don't want her at first because no girls allowed.
Because girls icky, as I've said.
Yeah. Many times.
Many times. So, yeah, I guess that's the basic setup.
That's it.
They kind of get involved with the gang a little bit more, and it kind of goes from there. Just off the bat, it's I wouldn't categorize this as horror, but I wouldn't categorize it as one thing. It's I guess it's a crime movie, if that's its own genre. But yeah, it's a hard thing to describe, but still watching it, there are definitely some horror elements to it. Specifically, just a few little scenes here and there. What did you like about it?
Well, one thing I think we both said we liked was that because it was a little bit different with a little bit of the fantasy aspects, it was kind of a unique concept. I mean, it's not... There are countless movies about violence in Mexico and violence in Brazil, and gangs are a big problem and stuff like that. But
I haven't seen that many, but not usually through the lens of kids. Not usually following kids. It's usually following
Yeah, but
as far as I know.
One thing that's kind of devastating in these situations are these kids that do become soldiers and do become drug runners and using guns and stuff. So kids aren't new to this type of thing, but to see it uniquely through the perspective of these kids and have that whole again, that fantasy element to it, and I don't know. I really liked the main kid too, Shiny.
He's
He's kind of a dick, but he has to be because he's keeping everyone alive.
Tough leader.
You know what I mean? He's the one going out scavenging and getting stuff for people. He's the one that's making them their makeshift house and stuff. And
a lot of the other kids seem either younger, either actually in age or at least in their minds or whatever.
Yeah,
they're kind of a little helpless.
They hadn't been through what he'd been through, and he had to toughen up or whatever. And the one thing I'm gonna say about this kid is one of our number 1 dislikes for almost every single movie that has a child actor that you'll see in this McMuscles Midnight Massacre Chapter 2 is that we hate the child actor, we think they're horrible. This is the complete opposite. I don't think I've ever seen such a good child actor as this kid Shining.
It's only in certain movies, certain foreign movies, where I look and it's like, I'd say out of like, let's say I watch 10 of them, maybe 3 I'll notice like, this is bad acting or this is good acting. And the kid Shining, or like, I guess the entire cast, whatever. I don't
Most
think
of them.
all of them felt really authentic and whatever. And you're trying to like listen through the language you like that. Especially I don't really understand that well. But I mean, there's certain words or whatever. I can I don't even need the subtitles. But I was just like, yeah, no, this is maybe actually a raw ass kid from the streets, and they just put a camera in his face. I don't know.
He just had this way of conveying emotion without speaking.
Yeah.
Just had these looks on his faces, and you're like, damn, the fuck, kid, like.
I'll give you my money, Shine.
I was like, I wanted to help him. I was just like, but I don't know, he just had this toughness, but like, also this softness, and I don't know, it was good. Like, the girl was good too, don't get me wrong, but like, he really stood out, I find.
I think it's because she was like living in a, with her mom normally, so there's not that much.
Well, he was 2 until like whatever happened to his parents, you know, whatever.
You don't get to see that stuff.
Los Huascas saben en dónde estamos. Nos vamos a ir a esconder.
What else do we like?
We said that. Well, the scares were pretty good.
So yeah, there's kind of like a ghostly spirit element to the movie, and when those scenes actually do come up, they don't happen too frequently, but when they do, they're pretty effective. Yeah. There's like a body wrapped up in like plastic, and that's what I use for the thumbnail, and it's a lot of the movie's main art. It's like, whoa, that's pretty intense. Haven't really seen something like that, quite like that.
Yeah.
And it only happens very occasionally, and it's more like...
They don't overdo it.
They don't overdo it, plus you're not even sure if this stuff is real. This is the interesting thing about it. I just wanted to talk about this now, because I just remembered. It's like, is this even real, or is this kid's imagination running away with them? These wishes that they apparently get, that she gets, they could not actually be coming true.
Yeah.
It's just that she's crushing it, and crushing the chalk piece or whatever, and it just so happens things are working out this way. It was nice where you can be like, well, maybe there's magic.
Maybe it is.
Maybe there's not. Maybe it's kids being kids.
Yeah, no, I didn't think of that, but that's true,
So that was the part of it that made it unique.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there's supernatural stuff, and it wasn't like there's fantasy stuff. There was kind of like, well, it could be anything, really.
Guerreros. Tigres.
So there was that. I think there was 1 or 2 things where kind of like, I don't know.
Well, we also thought it was shot well. The effects were pretty good. The effects, there's
some
a couple
CG
of them,
things.
some CG things, but they were good. I thought they were good. You're the critical one of CG.
It was definitely like, you could tell it was like a step below, but it was still like, for the type of movie that you're getting, like there's a little animated character that appears like very, very briefly. And I was like, you know what, that looks pretty good. It looks way better than some of the more modern movies we've watched in the marathon so far. So there's that. But yeah, the movie was shot very, very well. Like, you just get a gritty sense of the rooftops that they're always hanging out on, and like alleys and stuff, and the little like clubhouse kind of abandoned hotel, I guess, that they found.
Yeah, that was a really nice set too.
It was.
Yeah.
So what did we not like? I kind of forget.
Well, you had said it could be scarier.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I gave praise to the supernatural stuff,
You said there could have been more of it, and it could have been scary.
I think it could have been more. I think it could have been scary, especially early on. But as the kids come to grips with things and like the reality of the situation, especially her, because I think it's a lot of it's on her. Maybe it would be like cool if things get scarier, but then she kind of realizes like maybe things aren't as scary as I thought. Maybe I'm misinterpreting things, and I don't know. I kind of felt they could have expanded on that aspect just a little bit more, not like tons. But
well, yeah, because then if there's too many, they were like, no, the pacing's bad. It was too many. It was a jump scare.
Yeah, maybe it's a balance. It's a balance.
It's a balance.
But I still would have preferred like a balance that kind of skewed towards it, like an extra 5-10% is all I mean.
Okay.
Was there anything else?
Well, one other little nitpick, while I just did like her acting, the girl, like I was a little annoyed when and I'll give it to her, like her mom's not coming home, she can't reach her, then there's these creepy things that start happening, but then like she goes back to the kids who are on the rooftop and she's just like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And we're like, girl, He came to your house to like pilfer the beans from your cabinet. You're
They're
12.
not overflowing.
You can't open a can?
She's the oldest one.
Yeah, or I don't know how old she was, but I mean, around 12, you know how to freaking feed yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I was kind of like, but maybe she was using it as an excuse to just like get in there with them.
I think that's getting a little.
But then she was kind of eating all the crumbs, so maybe not.
She was a little annoying at first. Like,
yeah, she seemed kind of a little lost. But again, you know, given the light of the situation with her mom, you're gonna give her some leeway or whatever. But
the other thing is that there's a bit of a plot thing towards the end, which we'll not go into too much because it is kind of a reveal. But there's a plot element involving her mother that seemingly gets no explanation and nothing really. Like, it was, the movie didn't hinge on this, but it would have been nice to be like, well, why did that
happen to her mom? Yeah.
So I would have liked a little explanation.
Like I said, we can always just say like, just random violence, but it felt like it was still too important, like even in the storyline, that it wouldn't have just been a random, you know, thing that happened to her.
Yeah.
So why?
This is probably the least horror thing that I think we've watched. Maybe there's one or two other things that are kind of like.
Oh no, there's one or two others.
There's one or two others. Okay, but it was still, because we watched another movie by Guillermo del Toro that we actually were like, no, this isn't that horror-y.
Yeah,
and we kind of that was The Devil's Backbone.
Yeah, I remember. I even ordered it,
and it was really similar to this. It was a bunch of orphans.
It was a bunch of orphans.
You know,
is he an orphan?
I don't know.
Good question.
I have no clue.
He's got a thing with the orphan stories.
And we didn't, but this actually had a bit more of a scariness edge to it with the ghost. There's a ghost in Devil's Backbone, but it's not really a thing. But with that being said, I still think if you're a fan of horror or like thrillers or anything with like, you know, it's a bit darker, this is still a great movie.
I still really recommend it.
I was kind of really pleased with like its overall quality, even despite like you know the kind of mix of genres where it wasn't really one thing. I was still like, I'd recommend this to a lot of different people. So
yeah, me too. Look at us recommending a movie with primarily children.
Yeah.
As the lead actors.
You'd think we couldn't do it, but we did.
No.
So that's Tigers Are Not Afraid. That's streaming on Shudder right now. I don't know if it's available on any VODs. I think it's kind of like a Shudder exclusive, at least for a bit. But that's where we saw it, and recommended.
I do too.
So that's another McMuscles Midnight Massacre Chapter Tour in the bag. We'll be back tomorrow night with another one. I'm going to take this Kegel off because it's getting super hot.
Getting in my way. Poking me.